Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another edition of Rivalries on the WWE Podcast. It is Friday, February 12th, as we are going to review the most recent rivalry we have yet to do to date, and that is Triple H versus Seth Rollins from 2016 all the way until April 2017, that culminated at WrestleMania 33. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this one because I kind of enjoy doing the older ones more. As you may know, I'm a big Ruthless Aggression guy, tail end of the Attitude Era guy. But when we get a chance to review a more recent rivalry, it's almost better in a lot of ways because it is fresh in my mind. And like I said, it was just 4 years ago that this rivalry took place. And it was one of the more notable ones over that time in a very transitional period for WWE in 2016 and 2017. And I can't wait to get into that in just a bit. But I wanted to address a comment that was that was left in regards to my Rivalries episodes. And it was basically saying that I should not talk as much about the current WWE product. And you know what? I really appreciate that comment. So for whoever left that comment, I appreciate you guys taking the time to, give your opinions, because at the end of the day, I am here and the other hosts are here for your listening pleasure. And I have realized that after, going back and looking at past episodes, that I have maybe spent too much time on the current WWE product, and I mean up to 20 minutes or so on that per episode. So I'm gonna really try and limit my reviews of the current product to 5 to 10 minutes max. I'll just give my quick thoughts here and there, like the things I thought were good, things that I thought were bad. And I'll really try that by max the 10-minute mark into this podcast. We will get right into rivalries because, as the comment alluded to, and again, I'm not crapping on the comment, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to give me feedback. I've only been doing this on my own for about 6 months now, so I'm not always going to be perfect. And at the end of the day, like I previously said, I am here for you guys, so if you guys have any suggestions on how I could better my show and what you would prefer to hear as opposed to the things that I am accustomed to reviewing, by all means, let me know and I will get to that. So I'll get right into my current thoughts very, very quickly. I bit on SmackDown. I'm a bit surprised that they went back to Kevin Owens stunning Roman Reigns. I really am kind of hoping that it will ultimately end up being Edge versus Roman Reigns, because I can't see I guess a interesting feud between Edge and Drew McIntyre. I feel like Drew McIntyre has a lot of options over on Raw as opposed to SmackDown, that beyond Kevin Owens, who else is Roman Reigns really going to go toe-to-toe against? And like I said, I'm kind of shocked that Kevin Owens is back in the fold with Roman Reigns. I don't know where they exactly go in terms of that, but I'm hoping, and I think that it will ultimately be Edge versus Roman Reigns. And another thing to draw off of is that it's a title that Edge has never won. He's held the WWE Championship, he's held the now debunked World Heavyweight Championship, but the Universal Championship, although it has only been in existence for about 4.5 years, Edge has never had the chance of holding, so that would be a good thing to draw off of. Overall, Monday Night Raw, I think the biggest positive, because I won't get into all of it, is just, I really like what they're doing with Bobby Lashley. They're making that United States Championship feel very, very, very important. And I like how much they're making Lashley look like a dominant force. And it's the best he's ever looked. And I think that the way they've utilized him in the Hurt Business as just kind of like, as they call him, the chief hurt officer, this is what he should be. And I think that when his United States Championship run is all said and done, he will be primed for a main event push. I'm not sure when that will be, because I think having him in that mid-card scene is doing him a lot of good right now. And the fact of the matter is, it's doing a lot of good for the United States Championship as well. So, I mean, I think that it's helping out a lot of people. And on Monday Night Raw, they are blessed with a lot of talent who can, fight in that upper main event card, with obviously Drew McIntyre, The Fiend whenever he returns, Randy Orton, Sheamus, AJ Styles. They have a lot of options in that upper mid to main event card. So to just have Bobby Lashley really strengthening that mid card and that mid card championship, and really bringing up the ranks of, let's say, Riddle and Keith Lee, I think that is going to go a long way, and I just can't say enough about what they are doing with Bobby Lashley right now. So enough about that, and I'm going to stay true to my word, and we're going to dive right into rivalries. And like I previously mentioned, it is Triple H versus Seth Rollins in 2016 into early 2017. And just to give you a bit of the lay of the land of where we were in mid-2016 when this really got kickstarted, WWE had just ushered in a new era of the brand extension. In mid-July, I want to say, they went back to a true brand split and held a draft for the first time in, I want to say, 5 years. Because although they kind of abolished the brand extension completely, and I want to say 2013, when they unified the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship, when each of them were on respective brands, that was the unofficial end of the brand split. But it had been quite some time since they really adhered truthfully to the rules of the brand split. So I want to say that we were at least 5 or 6 years away from a true brand split that we were accustomed to. But when Shane McMahon returned in February of 2016, it really started fast-tracking back into a world of two separate entities, and a SmackDown world and a Raw world that were completely separated from one another. So at WrestleMania 32, the last WrestleMania that featured just a whole roster that was intertwined, and there was no separate Raw and SmackDown wrestlers. The main event was Triple H, who went in as the WWE World Champion against Roman Reigns, one of the most infamous main events in recent memories at a WrestleMania. And Roman Reigns won, to the dismay of many live in attendance at, I believe it was Dallas. I want to say that it was the AT&T Center where they broke the attendance record for that specific WrestleMania. And yes, it was, because the logo had the red star behind it for the Dallas Cowboys. And I hope I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that it was in Dallas in WrestleMania 32 in 2016. And I remember that when Triple H went away and he lost that title, you really thought that following this WrestleMania, it was the end of that whole authority era. Because by early 2016, we were approaching like 3.5 solid years that the authority was running roughshod on Monday Night Raw. And look, I'm not one of the people that hated the authority as much as others. To be quite honest, I kind of miss having authority figures more potent on WWE television. I think it's because I think back to the good old days when you had Vince McMahon on television and Eric Bischoff on television or Paul Heyman on television, all as those heel authority figures that just played their respective roles so well, that I always liked having, that figure that, you knew that the buck stopped with. I really do not like a wrestling show that just has matches being made by wrestlers who say, well, let's get a referee out here. And you have kind of like that inmates running the asylum type of feeling going on. And that's how even though it did get kind of tiring with Stephanie and Triple H coming out all the time, and then you had Corporate Kane and The Big Show and J&J Security with Seth Rollins, it really did kind of at least give some congruity and some sense to when matches were to be made, even if the horse was beaten way beyond its death. So Triple H goes away after, but another guy who was away during WrestleMania 32 was Seth Rollins. And he had been the WWE World Champion from April 2015 until right before Survivor Series 2015, when he suffered a real-life injury and had to relinquish the title. And before that, when he was champion and going all the way back to the summer of 2014, he had been the poster boy of the Authority. Remember how the Shield broke down and he joined forces with Triple H, and he had the previously mentioned J&J Security, and Kane helped him win the Money in the Bank. He cashed in at WrestleMania 31 in one of the best WrestleMania moments of all time, in my opinion, and one of the better WrestleMania cards in the history, in my opinion, as well. And his run as the heel WWE World Champion really got stopped in its tracks in November of 2015. And in his absence, they really kind of gave the mantle to Triple H himself to run with as the heel champion in WWE. Because if you remember, they kind of gave it to Sheamus, but that kind of fell flat, and he formed that League of Nations faction, which was just an overwhelming failure. And it's too bad, because I do like Sheamus, and I do think he deserves another world championship in him. But for that time, they really needed a guy to play the heel role at the top of the card. And many could argue that should have been Roman Reigns, but we all know that it took another, 4 or 5 years for Vince McMahon ever to finally fold in that respect. So, following WrestleMania 32, Roman Reigns holds the WWE World Championship all the way until Money in the Bank, where he faces off against a returning Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins wins the championship, only to lose it immediately after to Dean Ambrose, who cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase. He had won earlier that very night, and then it leads to a triple threat match at Battleground, where Dean Ambrose retains the WWE Championship, and they head into the brand split. And as we know, Dean Ambrose gets drafted over to SmackDown along with the WWE Championship, leaving Monday Night Raw with a vacant spot at the top of the card with no world champion. And I really thought that they were just going to bring back the World Heavyweight Championship. I still think to this day they should have, because I think it really devalues the championships when you have so many world titles over the history of, the wrestling industry. But that's neither here nor there. So we get the inaugural Universal Championship tournament that comes down to Finn Balor and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, to which Finn Balor wins the match and becomes the inaugural Universal Champion. And then, as we all know, he hurts himself in the match and immediately has to relinquish the Universal Championship the following night on Raw, something to which I don't believe Finn Balor ever recovered from at the main roster level. And this leads to, yet again, another tournament that comes down to a fatal four-way match between Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Big Cass. Yes, Big Cass was in the fatal four-way match for the Universal Championship. And Seth Rollins was still full-blown heel at this time. So you had a babyface Roman Reigns and Big Cass with heels Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. And this is when you still didn't really know who they were going to push at the top of the card as the main event heel. I was still assuming that they were going to go with Seth Rollins because, as previously mentioned, his original main event run as a top-level heel was stopped in its tracks when he got a real-life injury. And Kevin Owens, to this point, had only ever won an Intercontinental Championship. I really like Kevin Owens, but he was still only about 14 months into his main roster run in WWE, since coming up from NXT in the early summer of 2015. And during this match, then General Manager Mick Foley and then Raw Commissioner Stephanie McMahon are standing at ringside. And as the match is approaching its end, a familiar face we haven't seen in close to 6 months makes his return.
Boot to Owens. Owens staggered and falls off the apron. Rollins behind. Rollins looking to blow up Cass here. Cass kicks out at 2. And Big Cass, power slam. Could be time for the Empire Elbow. Right to the chest.
Beginning to get a sinking feeling that Big Cass just might pull this off.
Big Cass said earlier, Superman punch. Shoulder first goes Reigns. Kick right to the side of the face. Cover by Rollins on Cass. Isn't enough. The kick out at 2. Kevin Owens. Frog splash. Cover. Big Cass is eliminated.
Big Cass has been eliminated.
We are down to 3. It's now a triple threat match. Spear. And now it's Roman Reigns taking over. Roman's taking out both targets. He got to pin one of them. These guys are kicked out of everything. What the hell? Triple H! Triple H! With a pedigree to Roman! You gotta be kidding me! What the hell is he doing here? Triple H just pedigree Roman Reigns! Why is the game here?
We don't know why, but Roman Reigns lights are out.
Triple H is gonna help Rollins win the damn match! Not like this, not like this! You gotta be kidding me! Oh! Reigns is eliminated! It's down to Rollins and Owens! And there's no disqualification! The official can't do anything about it! What the hell? No! Wait a minute! No! What the? What's going on? A pedigree to Rollins! What is? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Kevin Owens the cover! Kevin Owens is the Universal Champion! Kevin Owens is champion!
Here's your winner and the new WWE Universal Champion, Kevin Owens!
What did we just witness? I can't believe it just happened! What did we just witness? Triple H has handed the Universal Championship to Kevin Owens!
Kevin Owens can't even believe it.
Owens isn't just as much shock as we are! Nobody can believe it! I can't believe the game's even here! KO-mania is upon us!
So, if you guys don't remember that, I would strongly go back to watch it because of Kevin Owens' facial expressions after Triple H pedigrees Seth Rollins and quite literally hands him the Universal Championship. And for all intents and purposes, Kevin Owens was the inaugural Universal Champion. I know technically Finn Balor won it, but when I think of the first guy who held that championship, it was Kevin Owens because unfortunately Finn Balor's reign lasted less than 24 hours. And, you know, it was a really cool dynamic, and I really like the booking of this match because at the end of that, Triple H walks out, stares down Mick Foley, who's the Raw general manager, and his wife, Stephanie McMahon, is just staring at him, you know, just not knowing how to respond because she's the commissioner. So it really was a good booking decision in terms of a long-term view. and storyline, and that's something that WWE doesn't do often enough. But when they do it, like in this instance, it's very well done, and I still to this day, it was one of the best decisions WWE ever did, because I really thought there was no chance that Kevin Owens would walk away from this second tournament type of concept as the Universal Champion. Because if you looked at the Raw roster at this time after they did the brand extension, you had Roman Reigns, you had Seth Rollins, you had Chris Jericho. Like, all three of those guys I thought would have been first up to get a crack at the Universal Championship. And if you looked at the SmackDown roster, you had Randy Orton, John Cena, AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler. So if you really looked at the two separate rosters, you could make the case that SmackDown's was stronger. But even in saying that, I really had no confidence that WWE was going to run with Kevin Owens at this time as the Universal Champion. And like I said, to get the first ever run as the Universal Champion, but they made a good decision. And in doing so, they kicked off a rivalry between Seth Rollins and Triple H. And, as you heard in that audio clip, when Triple H first entered himself into that match and pedigreed Roman Reigns, it was almost to help Seth Rollins get the championship, a guy that he had been backing for the past 2 years at this point. But he turns on him mid-match and gives the championship to Kevin Owens. And this was kind of like a babyface turn for Seth Rollins, kind of like in a Sasha Banks type of way, that he didn't really turn babyface, but because another heel turned on him, it just kind of made him by default a new babyface. And it took a while, I think, for them to really turn Seth Rollins completely as a babyface. And it worked, because I think by this point the fans were ready to see a face Seth Rollins, because unlike Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, who had been babyfaces for over 2 years solid at this point, Seth Rollins was arguably the most hated heel in WWE for the preceding 2 years, especially after he turned on his Shield brethren. And I remember, just from a personal standpoint, upon his return, I was just like, I would really like to see a babyface Seth Rollins here. I think the fans would really get behind him. I know I would. And this was really the kickoff of that. So we didn't see Triple H again for a while. And over the course of the fall, we saw Seth Rollins get a few cracks at the Universal Championship, which he to no avail, as Kevin Owens retained with the help of his best friend at the time, Chris Jericho. And this was Chris Jericho's last full-time run with WWE, and a great one it was, with the list and all that, and the best friends with Kevin Owens. It was just a great dynamic between Owens and Jericho. And then we went into the Survivor Series season, which is when they started this Raw versus SmackDown theme for Survivor Series, and you had Team Raw of Jericho, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens against Team SmackDown of Shane McMahon, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, and Bray Wyatt. So you heard Seth Rollins throughout the course of all these months, really wanting to run into Triple H and trying to get his attention, but it was to no avail. And you go up to Stephanie, and Stephanie said, I have no control over him, but they always just kind of kept it in the back pocket. Like, Seth Rollins had other things going on here, but he never actually got his hands or came face to face with Triple H. But as we got into the winter, things really started reaching a breaking point for Seth Rollins, that he just absolutely wanted to get his hands on Triple H. And this really became evident on a night of NXT.
Two bulldozers who will block for you and knock down anything in their path.
The funny thing is, this is where it all started, and I know you are back there. You are watching this. You can see everything. So I am calling your ass out right now, Triple H. Come on, let's do this thing. You think I'm playing around? This is not a game. You took my life from me. Now you get out of here. I'm not leaving this ring until you come out of here and make me.
So Triple H walks out, and then he proceeds to just call out security to have Seth Rollins removed. And this is right at the end of January, so we're really approaching WrestleMania season, and you're starting to get the feeling that these two are going to collide at WrestleMania. But again, they're teasing it. The NXT security drags Rollins out of the ring, and we yet again see Triple H avoiding Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins still trying to chase him down and seek retribution on what he did to him. And I think at this point, for me personally, is when you really start to see the complete babyface turn of Seth Rollins. I found this really, really cool, and I'm not an NXT guy. I just simply don't have the time to watch NXT. But him showing up on NXT, where you know Triple H is always at, it was cool to see the crossover. And I really think that this got people's attention, that you knew that they were going to build for it. And again, you hadn't seen them in the same ring since August. So this is, 4 or 5 months now that Seth Rollins has been on a never-ending quest to get his hands on Triple H. And this eventually leads to Seth Rollins getting his prayers answered on a Monday Night Raw. Or so he thought.
So hard not to be that guy anymore. I am trying so hard not to be that guy that ends careers and crushes dreams and injures people and doesn't give a crap about anybody or what anybody thinks. I am trying so hard not to be that guy anymore, to be something more. So every day I put on this suit. Every day I tie this stupid tie and I go to the office, and every day I try to put that behind me and I try to be a creator. I try to create something more for everybody here. And then a guy like Seth Rollins decides he wants to come to NXT. Seth Rollins wants to come where I am trying to create, where quite honestly I am trying to create the next Seth friggin' Rollins. So I am done trying. I am so done trying. Seth is going to... Oh my God! Who the hell is... Who the... Oh my God! It's Samoa Joe! Samoa Joe from NXT! The two-time NXT champion, Samoa Joe, is on Monday Night Raw. Triple H is heavy. Samoa Joe attacking and assaulting Seth Rollins. Samoa Joe took what Seth Rollins did in NXT and took the entire brand to a different level. Samoa Joe is now trying to destroy Seth Rollins. And Joe not done yet. Samoa Joe, and now Triple H just walks away. He's going to allow Samoa Joe to do the damage, to inflict the punishment as Rollins tries to fight back. Triple H never laid a hand on Rollins. Samoa Joe's laying plenty of hands on Rollins, and his feet and a senton. Samoa Joe, one of the baddest human beings on the planet, period. Samoa Joe doing Triple H's bidding. The man who really embodies what NXT is all about. Samoa Joe taking it to Rollins. Seth Rollins, meet your destroyer. His name is Samoa Joe. And you're right, Corey. Triple H, the creator.
Samoa Joe, the destroyer. And now the Coquina clutch. Samoa Joe.
Taking down Rollins. Samoa Joe just squeezing every last breath out of Seth Rollins' body, stopping the flow of blood to Rollins' head.
And somebody's got to get out here and separate this. Joe's going to hurt Rollins. He's going to hurt him bad.
Who's going to stop Samoa Joe?
Send out security. Do something.
Joe is quelling the storm that is Seth Rollins.
So just when Seth Rollins thought that Triple H was going to allow him to get his retribution and they were going to have a one-on-one fight, he gets ambushed by a debuting Samoa Joe on Monday Night Raw. And as you heard on commentary, Triple H did not lay a single hand on Seth Rollins and just calmly walks away as Samoa Joe, who had been an NXTer to this point and was showing up for the first time on Monday Night Raw, absolutely destroys Seth Rollins, puts him in the Coquina clutch, and puts him to sleep, as he always so liked to slay. But in real life, Seth Rollins did get hurt here, and you see it in the replay that when Samoa Joe locked in the Coquina clutch, Seth Rollins' knee buckled and he had a real-life injury, and it became a real concern as to whether or not Seth Rollins would make it back in time for WrestleMania 33, and we were just about 2 months out at this point, so it was good that WWE had a long-term storyline in place, that it gave them enough time to help Seth Rollins rehab his injury, but it really did get to a point where we weren't sure if Seth Rollins was going to be back in time for this WrestleMania match, but luckily that was the case, as he was able to rehab in time, and we were able to see Seth Rollins come back and actually brawl with Triple H leading up to WrestleMania. And that would, like, I remember he would walk down the ramp with the crutch, and at this point we were well into March, and he just drops the crutch. Him and Triple H start brawling in the ring, and then Triple H re-injures that leg yet again. And that was the first time that Seth Rollins finally got his hands on Triple H, but in storyline, he wasn't 100%, and Triple H yet again re-injures that knee. And they really used this, a real-life injury, into the storyline as Seth Rollins trying to overcome yet another obstacle to finally get his hands on Triple H, which he had been trying to do to no avail for, at this point, 6 or 7 months. And you heard Triple H in that clip saying that he's trying to be a creator. He's trying not to be that guy anymore. And by this point in early 2017, we were finally starting to see Triple H completely edge out of a week-to-week on-screen character, and he was becoming more of a behind-the-scenes creator in NXT. Like, yes, he was cutting a promo and he was trying to further his character along, but at the same time, he was very much telling truth, that we were basically a year removed from Triple H being a week-to-week character on Monday Night Raw that we hadn't seen since WrestleMania 32 in 2016. And this was really where the line started to blur, or at least from a storyline perspective, of is he going to be that cerebral assassin in the game, or is he going to be the NXT creator? And this was kind of like that last stand for him as that cerebral assassin type of character that we saw for much of his career. So WrestleMania 33 shows up, and this was it wasn't a bad WrestleMania. I mean, you had AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon, you had Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar, you had The Undertaker and Roman Reigns main event the card, and one of the most infamous main events of all time, just a horrible showing for the Dead Man, and the crowd booing Roman Reigns out of the building when he closed the show with a victory over Taker. You had Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship matches, one of the more underwhelming WWE Championship matches in the history of WrestleMania. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad WrestleMania by any stretch, but I still think that it wasn't the greatest. But WWE, like WrestleManias, they don't always hit it. But this one, it wasn't horrible, like I said, but it wasn't one of the best. But one of the best matches was Seth Rollins' match versus Triple H. And to this point, this was the biggest marquee matchup we had seen for Seth Rollins in his career, because he didn't appear at the previous WrestleMania because of an injury. The year before that, at WrestleMania 31, he had a one-on-one match with Randy Orton, won the first matches on the card, and then cashed in Money in the Bank to end the show, but he wasn't really a part of the main event. He just inserted himself in the final 5 minutes of it. And then all of his previous WrestleManias, he was in tag team matches with The Shield. So this was his first ever one-on-one match at a WrestleMania that was main event level. And again, they were playing on the knee injury. Is Seth Rollins going to be 100%? This and that. And this is when, the whole Kingslayer gimmick kind of started for him. And let's take a listen to how that match played out.
But somehow Triple H was able to get the shoulder up. I mean, regardless of what happens here, the Seth Rollins performance here tonight takes Gutsy to a whole new level.
Rollins fighting through the pain. It's amazing how much more you can endure when you land a high-risk maneuver.
Yeah, Triple H back to his feet. Seth Rollins trying to put him in position out for the pedigree. Trying to put Triple H away. Triple H still able to counter, kick to the midsection.
Another one. A second pedigree.
Rollins, though. It's Seth Rollins. Counter of his own.
Did he hook it?
Counter by Triple H. Rollins lands on his feet. Bad knee, though, collapse. Triple H turns him into another pedigree. The game looking for the victory. Rollins trying to fight out of it. Rollins able to. Maybe not. Triple H. Rollins. Great counter. And back to the bad knee.
Once again, always the ace up Triple H's sleeve tonight. Back to the injured knee of Seth Rollins.
Incredible action. Both men going for pedigree.
Stephanie McMahon again. Non-sanctioned match. Oh, no.
Oh, my Lord.
Could have been disastrous. Super kick.
Oh, Triple H. Yes. Advantage! Can he do it? The Kingslayer!
Here is your winner, Seth Rollins!
What an incredible ending to the matchup tonight! And somehow, bad knee and all, Seth Rollins has taken out the game! Seth Rollins may not be able to walk tomorrow, but he executed his mission statement to take down the game, and he has reclaimed his redemption.
So, Seth Rollins overcomes the unsanctioned match against Triple H and beats him with a pedigree, the move that he was using as his finisher at the time because the stomp had been banned for, I guess, about a year at this point. And in doing so, Stephanie McMahon takes a massive bump off the apron through the table at ringside. And that was a pretty big bump for Stephanie to take. And at the previous WrestleMania, she had taken a spear from Roman Reigns. So although I'm not always a fan of the Stephanie McMahon on-screen character, I have to give her credit that she does tend to take big bumps when we are in big match situations. So kudos to her. And you heard in the announcers talk about it that the big theme of this match was Triple H repeatedly going for that knee of Seth Rollins. Whenever he was in doubt, he would go after the bad knee of Seth Rollins. And then finally, Seth Rollins overcomes it and hits him with the pedigree for the 1, 2, 3. And this really closed the book on the rivalry between Triple H and Seth Rollins. And you heard Michael Cole say it. It kicked off the whole Kingslayer gimmick that became the Beast Slayer. And I really think that this was kind of like the crowning moment for Seth Rollins as a babyface. And we saw him run with that for the succeeding 2.5 years, right up until he lost the Universal Championship to Bray Wyatt just about a year and a half ago at this point. And as for Triple H, we didn't see him back in a WWE ring for about 6 months. He showed up in November to insert himself onto Team Raw at the Survivor Series in 2017. And then it slowly built to the mixed tag team match between himself and Stephanie McMahon versus Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey at the following WrestleMania. But, I mean, this was the last time we really saw Triple H show up week to week and really play that game cerebral assassin type of character. I know he fought at the succeeding WrestleMania, but I really thought that this WrestleMania was the last time we saw that old authority version of Triple H. Every time he shows up now, yeah, we kind of see him trying to play the authority gimmick, but he really is just a different character. He really is now always the creator, NXT Godfather type of character, which is fine, and that's cool. You know, characters have to evolve, and he's getting older, and that's what he is in real life. But this match and rivalry was symbolic in that way as the last time we really ever got to see Triple H in this way. And you know what? He put over Seth Rollins, and a lot of people obviously complain about Triple H, you know, the golden shovel and this and that. But, I mean, he put over Rollins at this WrestleMania, Roman Reigns at the WrestleMania prior. At the following WrestleMania, he put over Ronda Rousey. And in a lot of ways, in that mixed tag team match at WrestleMania 34, Triple H carried it. Then again, Ronda Rousey was absolutely excellent, and she blew the doors off in her first ever wrestling match. But, you know, Stephanie McMahon, not a wrestler. Kurt Angle in 2018, he was really not what he used to be. So Triple H was that ring general who helped carry that match along with Ronda Rousey. So, I mean, I think he kind of gets a bad rap. Like, sure, he did beat Sting at WrestleMania 31, which was completely idiotic. But at the same time, I think we could all agree that that was just Vince McMahon with a final gut punch to WCW and, you know, getting the last laugh, although he had many last laughs by the time 2015 rolled around and could have let Sting have his one victory at WrestleMania. But, yeah, we saw Seth Rollins go on a babyface run for quite a while, and we saw Triple H really exit out of the authority, cerebral assassin type of gimmick and really enter the NXT world. And now we're lucky if we see him a couple times every week, a couple times a year, rather. And it was a very good rivalry, long-term booking, and it was a very, very slow burn, and it paid off in dividends. And one of the best matches of the card that night at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando. Anyway, guys, that's all about I got for you this week. As always, you can get me on Twitter at ADemarco25 or Matt at wrestling_audio. You can email him at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, you can leave me comments and notes on ways I can improve the show, like one of you guys did this past week. I hope whoever that listener is, I did a better job this week of focusing on the rivalry at hand, because you're right. We have all the shows to review the week-to-week and modern-day products, so I will make a big effort to really stick to the topic at hand and focus in on rivalries, because that is why you guys are here each and every Friday. Anyway, guys, stay safe. Next time we'll talk, we'll be 2 days away from Elimination Chamber, and I'll talk to you next week.